one of the things is starting to increasingly bother me is the criticism of Marty St. Louis, the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. Not because Marty St. Louis is exempt from criticism, and not because you can't criticize him because he's Marty St. Louis, because I've always believed that if criticism is warranted, at that point you can criticize him. Like Marty St. Louis himself the other night said, you know what, made a mistake versus the Washington Capitals last Saturday afternoon. I should have pulled Jake Allen at one point. I shouldn't have let him in for 9 goals. It was my mistake. I'm going to learn from it. But, this criticism that I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm reading all over social media, especially on Twitter lately. I got one earlier today that, Marty St. Louis, what a tactician he is, a terrible tactician, this, that, and whatever. Honestly, it's starting to upset me. It's starting to upset me. And I'm going to tell you what I tweeted earlier this morning, and I'm going to tell you right now, just in case you missed it. And if you did miss it, I'll also tell you that you should follow me on Twitter at Tony Marinaro and also follow at The Sick Podcast. Marty St. Louis is a gift to the Montreal Canadiens. He's a gift. Whoever doesn't realize that is an idiot. Marty St. Louis is one of the best things to ever happen to the Montreal Canadiens organization. Whoever doesn't realize that is an idiot. Marty St. Louis is one of the best things to happen to the Montreal Canadiens young players. Whoever doesn't realize that is an idiot. Marty St. Louis is one of the best things to ever happen to the Montreal Canadiens as a development team. Whoever doesn't realize that is an idiot. And for all of you criticizing Marty St. Louis because the Montreal Canadiens are in 27th place out of 32 teams, if you actually thought that they were going to be better than this at this point of the season, almost at the midway mark, well, then you're an idiot too. And I say this with all due respect, by the way. But if you're going to criticize Marty St. Louis for the Canadiens' lack of points in the standings, thinking that you could have more points with the team than they have, you know absolutely nothing about hockey. Nothing. You're the same people that said, Connor Bedard's picking up 7 points versus a garbage team. Let me see him do it versus a good team. You know nothing about hockey. Nothing. Zero. Nothing. It's not for you. Either don't ever watch again, or if you watch, don't comment. Marty St. Louis has 4, maybe 5 forwards on his team. He's got 2 of them that produce regularly, and one of them's in a little bit of a slump. He's got 5 young defensemen, at least 3 of which wouldn't be playing on a playoff team right now. And he doesn't have a number 1 goalie, and he doesn't have a 1B goalie. He probably has a 2A, and he probably has a 2B, or maybe even a 2A and a 2C. He doesn't have a team. He got a lot out of them at the beginning of the season, and they most likely overachieved. They went into a difficult part of their schedule, and what had to happen happened. And for all of you criticizing Marty St. Louis, I'm not going to allow you to drive away a great teacher, a great mentor, a great educator, a man who is developing behind the bench and growing as a coach with each and every practice, each and every day, each and every game. And right now, he doesn't have a very good team. And one day when his team is going to be very competitive, he's going to be one heck of a coach. And I'm hoping it's going to be here. But for all of you who are going to try and drive him away, and all of you who know nothing about hockey and are going to hammer him for the Canadiens' lack of points in the standings, this sport is not for you. The reality is not for you. And this is where I come back to something that I wanted to see happen last year, and it didn't. And I believe the Canadiens made a mistake. And if they could go back, I think they would probably do what I suggested they do last year. And last year, Jeff Gordon, just like he did with the New York Rangers, had to come out with the rebuild letter because the rebuild was very clear to me. And I'm sure the rebuild was very clear to Eric Engels. And I'm sure the rebuild was very clear to Marc-Andre Perreault. But to some of the idiots on social media ridiculing Marty St. Louis, making him look like a dummy, obviously the rebuild wasn't clear to them. So maybe if they would have put pen to paper and would have put it on all social media outlets and apps and whatever and all that stuff, issued a press release for everyone to read it so that everyone understood that the Montreal Canadiens were in a rebuild. Why do you think they traded Lehkonen last year and they traded Kulak and they traded Sherratt and they traded Toffoli and they traded them for draft picks and prospects? Most of the prospects not playing in the National Hockey League. Right? Why do you think they did that? Because they're in a rebuild. Why do you think in the offseason they didn't improve themselves at the goalie position? Why do you think they're playing so many young players at the same time and not going out and acquiring veterans? Why do you think they're not going out and trying to find a first-line winger? Why do you think they're not going out and trying to add depth to this team? Why do you think they're not going out and trying to make this team better immediately? Because they're in a rebuild, stupid. So for all of you criticizing Marty St. Louis, if you don't get this, there's something wrong with you. It's not for you. Either stop watching or stop commenting. That's it. I said what I had to say. I was able to vent. I feel so much better now. Marty St. Louis is a gift to the Montreal Canadiens. He's a gift. Jeff Gordon's a great asset to this organization. Kent Hughes is a great asset to this organization. Marty St. Louis is a great asset to this organization. The scouting staff, we'll see. The jury's out. They brought in some new scouts. We'll see what they can do. That's it. I said what I had to say. I'm not going to make some of you on social media have Marty St. Louis get sick of his job or try and run him out of town. I'm not. So that you can get better right away and that. And what? And what? So you can win a few. And what? They get a more experienced staff. They get better players. So for what? So instead of finishing 27th, they finish 22nd. They finish 20th. The culture. I'll take 3 more months of pain. Give me a best shot at giving Connor Bedard or someone else in the draft. I'm Marinaro, and that clip you just watched is from our most recent episode of the Sick Podcast. Once again, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free, and you'll be notified when we go live. I'm Marinaro. Tell your friends about it. This podcast, like me, is pretty sick.